Yeah, no, so just chuck my chewing gum in the bin because I'm bad. It's going to get a bit loud.
Sleeping habits. That's where we start with sleeping habits. You must have none at the minute.
Terrible habits. Yeah, no habits exactly. Yeah, just just random. Yeah, so we're in New York 2 days ago.
Yes.
Yeah, for yesterday, and then came back to England yesterday, and so it's still a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit wobbly.
Well, you know what? You've only got yourselves to blame because you finished a great record, and as often happens with that, the demand is high. People want to see you, want to talk to you, and you've been doing all of it. You've been playing shows now, talking about the record. Record's done, so you're now well and truly on the treadmill.
We're about to actually get on the road as of next week.
Thank God. You must be really looking forward to getting into some form of routine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the routine. Yeah. Like that,
It feels like we need to go on the road to relax. You know, because this time right now, doing all this kind of stuff, it's cool, but it's quite busy and there's lots of it going on. You know, like the whole talking about the album thing. So when we go on the road, we can kind of just get into a routine, sleep a bit more, and just play some stuff.
How have you found talking about this new record? It seems to me, judging from the reaction that I see on email, Twitter, text, and everything else, that your fans absolutely love it. You know, what's been the general feel for you? As
I think I'm really into it. I think it's a very mixed album because it kind of starts off quite sort of light, if you like, or kind of fun, or more like when it ends up in this kind of
party around yours there next time. Huh? Wow! Oh my lord!
And then, by the time it gets to the end, it goes off into this weird world, you know. So I think it's a kind of something like that.
So
But they like it. I think a lot of people seem to like it. We've only played about 5 tracks live, and they Eurasia seems to be going down really well live, which is the track that I thought was going to be most difficult.
You had to stand up with that one, though. There's no way you could do a half-assed version of United States of Eurasia. You know, that one had to sound bigger than it does on the record, and it sounds ridiculously big on record. You know, so that's let's talk about a few things specifically that you've been. Let's keep it in the immediate past. How were the VMAs for you? The MTV
The American ones, that was pretty good. Yeah, we got to do like our own little concert as well. That kind of doubled up as a sort of album launch concert, if you like, to sort of fans in America and New York. And MTV came in and sort of just took one song out of that that went along with the VMA thing.
It really felt like, though, with the way it was introduced anyway, and I don't know if you watched it afterwards, but it seems like in America a big key to the success out there is the association with the Twilight series, which has been huge, you know, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it's extremely popular, and obviously the author's a big fan of your music, so it comes from a genuine place.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really...
They've all gone bloody vampire mad over there, haven't they? It's crazy.
I know.
But I guess it's... you know, opened it up in some kind of way. There's millions of people that have been listening to Supermassive Black Hole that have probably never heard our band before, which is not a bad thing. Did
they approach you to appear on the new one as well? Do something?
Actually, I spoke to the director. When was it? Yesterday or something, or the day before yesterday? I can't remember. And he wants, I think he wants a track. Well, I'm not sure I say, but he wants a track. I Belong to You. You know, a track, the kind of the sort of vaudeville piano track. He wants like a sort of rendition of that, but I think the only thing with the new film is they want all the songs to be. Some directors, you know, they want all the songs to be exclusive to film. They don't want it to be with anything else.
Interesting point at this point, given that the record is yours and you made it. And
so he's asking if I mind doing or if we mind doing like an alternative version of it. You know.
How do you feel about that? The record's been, the movie series has been good for you up to a point, and it's popular.
I think it's alright. I mean, I wouldn't, if it was like one of the main, one of the sort of lead tracks of the album, if you like Eurasia, I would never do it. Do you know what I mean, or something like that. Because it's actually one of the weirder tracks on the album. One of the tracks that's more like can't believe we got away with it kind of tracks. Because it's a track like that, I think it might be worth giving it a go because it's one of those songs that I think will probably not get played live very often, and it probably will be one of the songs that is kind of one of the more obscure tracks off this album.
It'll give it a life of its own, won't
exactly, yeah. So it might give that track a bit of life that it wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. You're right though. It's a odd song, and I love it for that reason though. But when I listened to the playback of the record in Como in your studio, that one really threw me, especially the French bit in the middle. I was like, well, Matt's really jumping the shark here. I love it.
It's all about the clarinet solo, the bass clarinet solo.
It's solid. There's all sorts of interesting sounds in this new record, and for the few fans that have somehow been asleep for the last few months and are waking up, and this is the first news they have of a new Muse record, there's a bass clarinet solo and there's slap bass on the record as well. You might be just a little slap bass that works. You guys sound like you had a lot of fun making this record to me. You know, in your own studio, in your own environment, with very little restrictions or boundaries. You know?
Yeah, I think
did.
I think most artists should do that at some point, or if not all the time. You know, just have a good time, enjoy yourself, because otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it. I think, but I think we really, because we're producing ourselves, we were much more free to explore the fringes of some ideas that otherwise would probably be frowned upon by producers or those kind of people.
Put in a position without that middleman or middlewoman or middle ground, you know, was it tricky with the times and it was trying to get your decisions across and your point across?
I think so, yeah. I think we certainly became a lot more. We had to be a lot more kind of open and listen to each other in some kind of weird way, you know, because we felt like we couldn't really make any really serious, solid decisions without all three of us really being in a room at the same time. And being a three-piece, you know, the democracy wins, you know, so it's often like a 2 against 1 kind of position to get a decision made.
Who's always losing? Someone's always losing.
Well, the battle.
Yeah. Someone's always...
me and Dom had quite some relatively serious arguments, I'd say, when we were making the album. Yeah. I really wind him up when...
Creative conflicts.
When he has trouble, like, it doesn't happen all the time, but when there's songs where, you know, because Dom wants to do lots of takes, you know, and I get bored after about 3 takes, you know. Right. I do like 2 or 3 takes and I just like tail off and go, and when it carries on going, I end up going into the control room and becoming like the worst producer in the world, like, come on, push it, do a better drum fill, you can do better than that. And I just really pushed him. And once I pushed him so far that he threw the drumsticks at the window and said and just stormed off. But it was real though, it was a real proper like. And
I only got in the mood like once in the whole like making of the album.
Yeah,
but because of you.
But it seemed like a lot of things. It seemed like we disagreed on. It seemed like me and Dom pretty much always disagreed on things. But that's where Chris stepped in. And Chris is
bigger than you. To be fair,
he's a lot bigger than us. Yeah, he's probably twice the size of us. So when he steps in and says something, everybody just goes. Okay.
Yeah. How did you feel at the end of the last album, leading into recording this one? You know, you played Wembley Stadium. You're like the sort of largest, the hottest ticket in terms of live ticket in the UK, I think, in terms of playing these kind of venues. And yet, you know, obviously, the records sales don't match. It's a weird scenario you find yourselves in. Do you know what I mean? Where you're almost like the biggest cult band in the world. I mean,
I think I see what you're saying. I don't think we really. I don't think we were able to really see many flaws in success of the albums, if you know what I mean, because the live side has always been so strong, but the albums, I think, have connected on the widely on the internet, not just through official sales things like that. I think we're one of those bands that's come through that way. I think a lot of new bands have to come through that way. Where you have to accept, sales figures are just way down when it comes to records, but we've been very lucky on the live side. That's kept us going. So I think that I don't think we've approached any albums thinking we really need to change anything for those reasons. I think the changes we've made on the records have been for creative reasons, to keep ourselves fresh and interested in making new music, basically.
What amazed me was going back and listening to songs off Showbiz and realising how ambitious you were right at the very start. And I'd forgotten, because you've been obviously ramping it up on each album and each live show, but that ambition and that musicianship was really in place right at the very beginning. I mean, you must surprise yourselves to think, God, we were cocky weren't we? Put some of this on record.
A lot of people say, they say over the top or sort of, extreme or indulgent or whatever. Yeah. But to me, it never doesn't seem that way. It's, as I said, I mean, it's probably because I do listen. I don't obsessively listen to it. I do listen to bits of classical music, opera music, that kind of stuff, and that stuff really is over the top. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, to me, like, we're nowhere near that in terms of drama. The kind of drama you get from when you see certain opera pieces or certain, especially 20th century classical music, film music. It's really epic stuff. Really massive.
You're flying pretty close to the sun though with the opera, with the symphony at the end, which I think is amazing, and I think you've absolutely done it, and you made it work within the context of the record, which is a huge challenge for anybody to apply themselves to that and actually make it work in and amongst the riffs and the pop songs and everything else. You obviously really put a lot of heart and soul into that piece of music. And I mean, you could probably tell us before I even talked to him about it, did it nearly drive him mad? I mean, were there moments when you find him like literally over the keyboard at 4 in the morning?
I mean, we were lucky because we had like 2 studio setups. While you were kind of freaking out or writing the string arrangements, we could be in the other room working on something else. So that certainly helped. But yeah, I think there was a lot of, you certainly felt a lot of stress around that point, getting it all done. But I mean, it really was quite an accomplishment, really.
Definitely. I mean, how do you know when something like that is complete? It's different to working with a pop song or knowing that, okay, well, let's put one more chorus in there. To be fair, most of these songs, not yours, just in general through the history of music, there is a math to it. And okay, well, even if you muck around with the time signature a little bit here and there or the key change, one more chorus will do it, wrap it up nicely, and we move on. Do you know what I mean? To a certain extent. When you're working in a symphony environment or you're doing 3 parts, how do you? It's like doing a painting, isn't it? How do you know?
I think you just use you just use your the emotions totally. You let your feelings, whatever that is. I'm not sure the word to describe that is, but let that dictate the chordal movements and just where you're going with the piece. And sometimes you'll find yourself just going off into a place which has got no structural meaning at all, but has a strong emotional meaning because it leads on. Because it's a question and answer thing, or like some kind of vague internal narrative that you're trying to present. And so I think so long as you let that lead the way, then you can trust the end result. Even if it is quite weird, I think you can trust that it's come from from a truthful location. Yeah.
Do you try to apply those theories to writing all your music? I mean, do you really try and let the music lead?
Well, no, yeah, a lot of the time. Some tracks you let a big riff lead. You know what I mean, or like something that you know is going to like make you jump up and down, and therefore hopefully the crowd as well. You know, so it depends. Songs like Unnatural Selection were clearly written around the idea of sort of a live environment. You know, like something that we would want to play on stage on a regular basis, and we knew was going to really go down well. Whereas the symphonic stuff was not really, it was not written with live in mind at all. It was written really just from some sort of internal sort of place. Yeah.
Desire to do it. You're going to try it? You're going to have a go at doing it live at some point?
I don't know. I'm just thinking. I haven't got the guts to do the piano live because I know I'm going to up. That's the thing. It'll be so embarrassing. In the early days, it was a bit more like crazy girls, doing crazy things,
I've come in contact with this more and more in the last couple of months as the build-up for this record, and believe me, boys, it was an elongated and fantastic build-up, perfectly handled, but it was just whipping your fans into a frenzy, and they are a passionate bunch, and you must be aware of this, apart from just standing on stage when you come into contact with them for whatever reason. Has it always kind of been that way, ever since you've been making music, where your fans seem to cling on to you a little more than perhaps other bands?
Obviously we're very, very close with a lot with the fans in general, musically and emotionally for that reason, and we've always felt very strong because of that from the very beginning. We've always had a very strong fan base, which has made us feel like in some ways a little bit apart from the media game. That a lot of
I think
fans,
they do too. I think they feel like being a fan of yours sets them apart from the playground or
and in some ways, in some ways the fans, I think they know us. They know me certainly in ways that other people don't. Certainly there's very, very personal things on the albums, and I think that when you meet people that really love it, it really touches them. You can't help but feel very close to those people because there's something you have something in common with them.
But you must come across some hilarious things online that people write as well, and the investigation into your life and because people really find your lyrics absolutely fascinating, I think, and the music and what you put into it. So it becomes not about the songs as much sometimes as what I've read. It becomes about the motivation of the person itself, like you guys. Like
there's some very passionate people out there that can
game face, Dom, game face.
Get into the realms of what you might call stalkerish.
No. It was actually worse in the early days. I think it's much more. There seems to be much more. A lot of fans really friendly these days, very, very chatty and friendly. In the early days, it was a bit more like crazy girls, doing crazy things, which was nothing wrong with that, but no, there's crazy mothers now, crazy women.
It's your tipping point, gentlemen.
It's maturing.
The
crowd's maturing.
The audience is getting older.
They're maturing with you. Nothing wrong with that. No, I think that all different types of people are fans of Muse, and
it's always been a very mixed audience as well. That's always nice. You see all age groups and all types of people in our concerts.
It's been nice. It's definitely felt like the music's certainly touched some people in a very deep way, and it's never really been like the music's never been like taken on with for kind of from a mediocre position. I mean, people have either hated it or loved it.